Pantheon: Rise of the Fallen, which was released into early access on Steam in late 2024, has managed to capture the hearts of many old-school MMO players, and quite possibly a few new ones, earning a very positive reception on the platform. It has also managed to retain its relatively high concurrent player numbers since launch, which is no small feat for an MMO in the current market. As someone who has followed the game since its initial announcement in 2014, I had high hopes for Pantheon, but over the years, skepticism crept in. The passing of visionary Brad McQuaid and the game's prolonged development cycle, coupled with a graphical update in 2024 that seemed to push progress backward, made me doubt the future of the game. However, after diving into the early access version, I'm pleased to say that Pantheon has largely redeemed itself and stands as a spiritual successor to EverQuest, and surprisingly, as a game that might appeal to players outside of the EverQuest community as well. Despite being a niche title in early access, Pantheon has attracted a dedicated player base, with concurrent player numbers reaching over 6,000 on Steam, impressive for a game developed by a small team and comparable to more mainstream MMOs and titles from much larger studios. The numbers have since fallen to around 3,000 to 4,000 concurrent players, which is to be expected with every MMO, and are still impressive numbers for an indie MMO in early access. The game's old-school MMO design, reminiscent of EverQuest, has resonated with players who crave a slower, more community-driven experience. While the game is still bare bones and lacks polish in some areas, the core gameplay loop is addictive and the community is thriving. Even if the game is designed with EverQuest veterans in mind, I think the game might also appeal to classic WoW players, RPG enthusiasts, and anyone who enjoys a more deliberate, group-focused MMO experience that embraces RPG elements. In recent years, there has been a strong trend, not just in MMOs, but in RPGs in general, to move away from RPG elements and towards more action-centered gameplay, because that is what developers and the higher-ups in gaming studios thought the players wanted. Baldur's Gate 3 proved that theory wrong, and it is nice to see MMOs like Pantheon also with a focus on RPG elements. Pantheon's gameplay is a love letter to EverQuest, with many systems directly inspired by the iconic MMO. Just like in EQ, you won't see a mob's level. Instead, you press the C button to consider a mob, and a text will tell you how dangerous the mob is and if it is aggressive. The look and feel of the world in general is also very reminiscent of EverQuest, including the races, classes, items, and skills. Similarities can also be drawn to Vanguard's Saga of Heroes, which was also Brad McQuaid's brainchild. The lack of handholding is refreshing. There's no map, which makes the world feel vast and dangerous. Movement is satisfying, with a limited sprint mechanic and a unique climbing system that encourages exploration and rewards players with hidden areas and loot. The death penalty, while harsh, strikes a good balance. You lose XP, can de-level, and must retrieve your inventory, though you keep equipped gear. Thankfully, summoners and necromancers can assist with corpse retrieval, making it possible to skip the longest and most difficult corpse runs. Combat in Pantheon is surprisingly fun, with a tab targeting system that feels both rewarding and strategic. It's faster paced and more reactive compared to classic EverQuest, but slow enough so that you can make strategic choices and plan your attacks. Skills are impactful, and resource management and timing are crucial, even when playing solo. Mobs are dangerous, especially in groups, and careless play will lead to frequent wipes. You will have to plan out your skill setup and react to enemy attacks and situations even when playing solo, but even more so in groups, where you will most likely wipe often unless you have a well-prepared group. Class identity is strong, with each class feeling unique and leveling up providing meaningful new abilities that enhance gameplay. One of Pantheon's greatest strengths is its emphasis on community. Unlike modern MMOs that rely on dungeon finders and impersonal group mechanics, Pantheon encourages players to interact and form meaningful connections. The group-focused nature of the game fosters a sense of camaraderie, but solo play is viable if you prefer to go it alone, though slower and grindier than many modern players might be used to. The leveling process is enjoyable in its own right, as it feels like a part of the game, rather than being a rushed means to reach endgame content. The addition of more quests and lore in the future promises to enhance the leveling experience even further, making the game seem like a great adventure as you grind on your own, delve into dungeons with your friends, or complete epic quests. The world of Pantheon is intriguing to explore, though it feels empty in places, a common issue for early access titles. Some areas, like the human starting village, appear unfinished, while others are visually stunning. The graphics, which I hated when starting out, grew on me a bit, though I wish the art style leaned more toward realism than its current slightly cartoonish look. Where Pantheon truly shines is in its sound design and music, which are among the most immersive I've experienced in any MMO. Just take a listen to this. As with most early access titles, Pantheon feels incomplete. Crafting and gathering systems are underdeveloped, and key features like the perception system are largely missing. The world lacks depth in terms of lore and NPCs, which can make it feel empty at times. However, these shortcomings don't break the game, and the core experience is strong enough to keep players engaged. Also, there are very few game-breaking bugs, and performance has been great so far. If you prefer a more polished and complete game, it might be worth waiting for the full release, or at least beta. That said, I've enjoyed my time in Pantheon enough to continue playing in early access, which is rare for me, as I prefer to wait until the full release. Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is a promising MMO that successfully captures the spirit of EverQuest while introducing modern improvements. Its early access state means it's not without flaws, but the foundation is solid, and the potential for greatness is evident. With a dedicated team and a passionate community, Pantheon could become a standout MMO in a year or two, especially as the world is fleshed out with more content, NPCs, and lore. For now, it's a fantastic choice for players seeking a slower, more immersive RPG experience with a strong sense of community. If you're willing to embrace its early access limitations, Pantheon is well worth your time. My final score for the early access of Pantheon lands at 8 out of 10, as the core gameplay loop is fun and engaging, the sound's fantastic and looks the part as well most of the time. All in all, it's good enough, so I don't mind any of its early access flaws, which are definitely there, but I have faith that the developers are working on hammering them out. Keep in mind that I'm probably a bit brainwashed, as I've been playing EverQuest for over 25 years. In the end, if you enjoy EQ, classic WoW, or just a slower RPG experience in general, I'd say Pantheon is well worth a try. If you prefer a bit more polished experience, I'd wait a bit longer and give the developers some more time. Either way, I hope I'll see you in Terminus.